Hey everyone, my name's Alexa and welcome back to ACE International History Review. This time we're going to be reviewing Unit 2.2. The big question for this unit is how and why did international tensions remain high in the period between 1920 and 1923? So let's get started. To begin, there were many difficulties implementing the peace settlement terms. For example, the U.S. Senate rejected the peace settlement, which increased tensions. Russia remained isolated, and Mussolini defied the peace settlement. Speaking of Mussolini, he was the leader of the Fascist Party. Fascism was a political philosophy which advocates state control over all aspects of society and the economy, and is heavily nationalistic. He supported Hitler during World War II, but then was executed by communists in 1943. He also was the ruler of Italy from 1922 to 1943. Now, moving to U.S. isolationism, U.S. isolated themselves from all of European affairs, and this caused them to not ratify the Paris Peace Settlement and not join the League of Nations. This had many impacts on other European nations. For example, France no longer had American support in German attacks. Britain also wanted to copy the US's policy and also exhibit isolationism because they thought it would bring peace. France didn't want them to do this, however, because they would lose another vital ally. Now, there were many attitudes during Russia during this time. Russia was seen as suspicious, and many countries feared Russia because of its communistic abilities. In fact, countries supported anti-communists. During the Russian Civil War. This led to Russia being isolated and vulnerable. Now, Germany experienced hyperinflation. This was when Germany needed to pay its reparations but didn't have enough money to do so, so they printed so much more money to pay their reparations back that their money ended up losing so much value that it was worthless. As you can see in this picture, kids are literally playing with thousands of dollars, which means that the money was worthless. Moving on to the Ruhr crisis. French and Belgian troops seized control of coal and timber as a way of payment in the Ruhr. However, they were unsuccessful for doing this, and they wanted to do this because Germany was not paying its reparations, so they wanted to get another form of payment. Moving on. Before we get to the Corfu incident, let's discuss some attitudes towards Germany. Britain supported Germany economic revival because they thought it would benefit their country because they saw many trading and exports to Germany and markets to sell their goods in. France, however, since they shared a border with Germany, they wanted Germany to stay weak so they can't come to France and declare war. Now, for the Corfu incident, this occurred in August of 1923, when 4 Italian deaths on the border of Greece and Abyssinia led Mussolini to bring Italian troops to this part of the island, and they didn't leave until it was resolved. This just caused concern throughout Europe. There were other disputes, such as the Turkey dispute in 1922, where they defied their Paris Peace Settlement, and they were the first country to do so. Now, for the Washington Naval Conference of 1921 to 1922, this was when 9 countries attended the conference in Washington, D.C., and was invited to do so by the USA. So there were many treaties, such as the Four-Power Treaty. This was signed by USA, Britain, France, and Japan. These countries agreed to follow through with negotiations instead of military action. Now, for the Five-Power Treaty, it was signed by the USA, Britain, France, Japan, and Italy. This was where all nations in the treaty agreed to limit its warship tonnage. Japan also gave up some Chinese territory. Lastly, in the Nine-Power Treaty, this was signed by all 9 countries who attended the conference, which reinstated the open door policy and protected China. Now, I want to make note that the Chinese government and any of its officials were not invited to attend this conference, and they were just informed of the outcome. Moving on to the Genoa Conference, this conference occurred in 1922 and occurred basically nothing. Germany wanted to reduce its reparations, however, France still applied its hardline approach and didn't allow for negotiations. So Germany backed out of this conference. Russia, seeking a treaty and wanting to side with Germany, also backed out of the conference, leading to it getting nowhere. Now, after this, the Treaty of Rapallo Pact was right after the Genoa Conference in 1922. This was when Germany and the Soviet Russia were both alone and vulnerable, so they decided to assist each other by creating this pact and assist each other economically, industrially, and militarily. Now, there is also the Treaty of Lausanne in 1923. This was where the Treaty of Sevres was ratified, and Turkish actually finally signed it. Now, many countries feared communism in the USSR. The Bolshevik power rise scared France and Britain. In March of 1919, the Moscow Conference initiated the Common Inauguration. So this just led to a bunch of scared countries and just made Russia even more isolated. Thank you for watching.